A change is brought about because ordinary people do extraordinary things. Change will not come if we wait for some other person, or if we wait for some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the change that we seek. In the unlikely story that is America, there has never been anything false about hope. In the face of impossible odds, people who love this country can change it. If you're walking down the right path and you're willing to keep walking, eventually you'll make progress. There's not a liberal America and a conservative America, there's the United States of America. We don't ask you to believe in our ability to bring change, rather, we ask you to believe in yours. It's important to make sure that we're talking with each other in a way that heals, not in a way that wounds. Focusing your life solely on making a buck shows a poverty of ambition. It asks too little of yourself. And it will leave you unfulfilled. Nothing can stand in the way of the power of millions of voices calling for change. The worst thing that colonialism did was to cloud our view of our past. You can't let your failures define you. You have to let your failures teach you. Where you are right now doesn't have to determine where you'll end up. Someone once said that every man is trying to live up to his father's expectations or make up for their father's mistakes. You might be locked in a world not of your own making, her eyes said, but you still have a claim on how it is shaped. You still have responsibilities. We may not be able to stop evil in the world, but how we treat one another is entirely up to us. Hope, hope in the face of difficulty. Hope in the face of uncertainty. The audacity of hope. In the end, that is God's greatest gift to us, a belief in things not seen. A belief that there are better days ahead. I think perhaps education doesn't do us much good unless it is mixed with sweat. But you see, a rich country like America can perhaps afford to be stupid. It's only when you hitch your wagon to something larger than yourself that you realize your true potential. At the moment that we persuade a child, any child, to cross that threshold, that magic threshold into a library, we change their lives forever, for the better. Each of us deserves the freedom to pursue our own version of happiness. No one deserves to be bullied. My little girls can break my heart. They can make me cry just looking at them eating their string beans. The truth is, I've never been a big believer in destiny. I worry that it encourages resignation in the down and out and complacency among the powerful. Each path to knowledge involves different rules and these rules are not interchangeable. Let me tell you something. I'm from Chicago. I don't break. Each path to knowledge involves different rules and these rules are not interchangeable. We may come from different places and have different stories, but we share common hopes, and one very American dream. If the people cannot trust their government to do the job for which it exists, to protect them and to promote their common welfare, all else is lost. There's nobody to guide through the process of becoming a man. To explain to them the meaning of manhood. And that's a recipe for disaster. Better to be strong, Lolo, said, if you can't be strong, be clever and make peace with someone who's strong. But always better to be strong yourself. Reading is important. If you know how to read, then the whole world opens up to you. And it's safe to assume that those in power would think longer and harder about launching a war if they envisioned their own sons and daughters in harm's way. The future rewards those who press on. I don't have time to feel sorry for myself. I don't have time to complain. I'm going to press on. We prove that we are still a people capable of doing big things and tackling our biggest challenges. All the education and good intentions in the world couldn't help plug up the holes in the universe or give you the power to change its blind, mindless course. I'm asking you to believe. Not just in my ability to bring about real change in Washington, I'm asking you to believe in yours. My fellow Americans, we are and always will be a nation of immigrants. We were strangers once, too. We want everybody to act like adults, quit playing games, realize that it's not just my way or the highway. Have you ever noticed that if there's a hard way and an easy way, you choose the hard way every time? Why do you think that is? Religious freedom doesn't mean you can force others to live by your own beliefs. It's in the misery of some unnamed slum that the next killer virus will emerge. Although the principle of equality has always been self-evident, it has never been self-executing. When our government is spoken of as some menacing, threatening foreign entity, it ignores the fact that, in our democracy, government is us. The title of Reverend Wright's sermon that morning was "The Audacity of Hope." Issues are never simple. One thing I'm proud of is that very rarely will you hear me simplify the issues. The thing about hip-hop today is it's smart, it's insightful. The way they can communicate a complex message in a very short space is remarkable. Scientists and engineers ought to stand side by side with athletes and entertainers as role models. This victory alone is not the change we seek, it is only the chance for us to make that change. You have the ability and gifts to do whatever you want. It is your turn now to change the world. Yes, we can. Even the smallest act of service, the simplest act of kindness, is a way to honor those we lost, a way to reclaim that spirit of unity that followed 9/11. Beneath the layers of hurt, beneath the ragged laughter, I heard a willingness to endure, and make music that wasn't there before. A healthy dose of guilt never hurt anybody. It's what civilization was built on, guilt. A highly underrated emotion. After a century of striving, after a year of debate, after a historic vote, healthcare reform is no longer an unmet promise. It is the law of the land. What makes a man is not the ability to have a child but having the courage to raise one. We will restore science to its rightful place and wield technology's wonders to raise healthcare's quality and lower its cost. The conviction that racism wasn't inevitable may also explain my willingness to defend the American idea, what the country was, and what it could become. Even when folks are hitting you over the head, you can't stop marching. Even when they're turning the hoses on you, you can't stop. Our values call upon us to care about the lives of people we will never meet. Over time I've trained myself to take the long view, about how important it is to stay focused on your goals rather than getting hung up on the daily ups and downs. I'm an old-fashioned guy. I believe in the Enlightenment, and reason, and logic, and facts. 232 years and they wait until the country's falling apart before they turn it over to the brother. Doubtful of what we can achieve to put their hands on the arc of history and bend it once more toward the hope of a better day. This, I was coming to realize, was the nature of the presidency. Sometimes your most important work involved the stuff nobody noticed. Today we begin in earnest the work of making sure that the world we leave our children is just a little bit better than the one we inhabit today. A good compromise, a good piece of legislation, is like a good sentence or a good piece of music. Everybody can recognize it. They say, it works. It makes sense. I know that she was the kindest, most generous spirit I have ever known, and that what is best in me I owe to her. If you're going to do this work, Barack, you've got to stop worrying about whether people like you. They won't. Patronage. When all Americans are treated as equal, no matter who they are or whom they love, we are all more free. The road we have taken to this point has not been easy. But then again, the road to change never is. We all remember Abraham Lincoln as the leader who saved our Union. Founder of the Republican Party. We will keep the promise of Social Security by taking the responsible steps to strengthen it, not by turning it over to Wall Street. I don't worry about the survival of the novel. We're a storytelling species. Once I found an issue enough people cared about, I could take them into action. With enough actions, I could start to build power. Issues. I was tempted to exit my perch, make my way down the aisle, and smack the guy in the head. I knew a time would come when I would disappoint them, falling short of the image that my campaign and I had helped to construct. We say we value the legacy we leave the next generation and then saddle that generation with mountains of debt. In the hands of the shrewd and the ruthless, chaos had proven a gift. Joe looked at the name on Axe's BlackBerry and then turned to me. Who the hell is Sarah Palin? McConnell raised his hand like a traffic cop and said, "You must be under the mistaken impression that I care." Still, I strongly resisted the idea of offering up my past in a book, a past that left me feeling exposed, even slightly ashamed. Chicago, a town that's accustomed to its racial wounds and prides itself on a certain lack of sentiment. I try never to get too high when things are going well. I try never to get too low when things are going poorly. I try to keep an even keel. Inexhaustible, our capacity to exempt from mercy those who look different or pray to a different God. We are made for this moment, and we will seize it so long as we seize it together. I was impatient in those days, busy with work and unrealized plans, and prone to see other people as unnecessary distractions. I'd never once heard her dwell on the disappointments. Instead she seemed to find small pleasures everywhere. Glory and tragedy, courage and stupidity, one set of truths didn't negate the other. For war was contradiction, as was the history of America. Unhappy with any presumption that all whites were racist, or that their own fears and day-to-day struggles were less valid. As I chewed on the gooey popcorn, looking out at the lake, common turquoise now, I tried to recall a more contented moment. Look. You can't plan out your life. What you have to do is first discover your passion, what you really care about.